You open your eyes into warmth, but not the comfort of a blanket or the gentle hush of a fireplace. This warmth is dry. It is the kind that clings to your skin like invisible dust. The air smells of sun-baked stone, of olives ripening in the distance, and a faint tang of salt drifting in from the sea. You're standing at the edge of a Roman street, paved with irregular stones that echo the soft rhythm of sandals passing by. Your feet are bare, the stones warm from hours under a cloudless sky. Shutters rattle lazily in the breeze, wooden awnings creak, and somewhere nearby a dog barks twice before falling silent again. The city feels alive, but also paused, like a held breath. You don't know why, but everything is stiller than it should be. The people around you smile, they move, they speak Latin softly into the afternoon, but something in your chest feels as if it already knows the ending. You walk past a bakery. The scent is overwhelming, warm bread laced with herbs and garlic, mingled with the sharp sweetness of crushed grapes being stomped into wine just across the alley. The baker, a woman in her 40s, with sun-darkened skin and thick arms, slides a loaf onto a wooden board and wipes her forehead. She laughs at something her son says. The sound rings in the air like glass, sharp, beautiful, and too fragile. You follow the sound of music now. A lyre. Gentle plucked strings played by a boy sitting cross-legged beneath a stone fountain. The fountain itself is cracked moss climbing up its side, and the water trickles slowly from the mouth of a marble lion. The boy doesn't look at you. He just plays, his eyes half closed, as though he too is drifting between two worlds, this moment and something distant. You pass murals painted in brilliant reds and ochres, scenes of gods and lovers, of banquets and battles, their colors still vivid against the plaster. You reach out to one, a woman reclining on a couch, her fingers raised in mid-conversation. Your hand stops just short of touching the wall. The heat has shifted. The air now carries something new, a dryness not of dust but of ash. It's faint, but you feel it in your throat. A child runs past you, giggling, his tunic flapping behind him. He vanishes down a side alley, chasing something unseen. You don't follow. You turn instead toward the Forum. The open space is half in shadow now, the sun sliding behind the hills. Statues cast long, stretched silhouettes across the ground. A man in a white toga argues near the temple steps, his voice rising and falling like waves, though his words are lost to distance. His face is flushed. He believes this argument matters. Maybe in this moment it does. To your left, a woman sits weaving in the shade. Her fingers move quickly, threading dyed wool through a wooden loom. The colors red, black, gold flicker in the dimming light. Her eyes are heavy-lidded. She hums something old and wordless. You find yourself slowing down, drawn by her voice. She does not stop her work. She does not look up. A whisper of wind rises. It lifts dust into the air, stirring the hem of your robe, and then it stops. Abruptly. No birds sing, no footsteps echo. Even the boy's lyre has gone silent. Everything is too quiet. The breath the city had been holding, it doesn't release. It tightens, like a string pulled taut. Then faint, like the rumble of a distant drum, you hear it. A low growl from the direction of the mountains. You look toward it. Vesuvius stands there, tall and proud, its peak still calm. But the sky above it is wrong. It pulses. Not with light, but with a thickness that's hard to name. Not clouds, not smoke, but something heavier, as though the heavens are beginning to boil. People glance up one by one. A seller of figs drops his basket. The fruit rolls slowly across the stones. A woman clutches her chest. A priest at the temple steps stops mid-prayer, his hand frozen in a half-gesture to the gods. The dogs bark again, but now they won't stop. They bark and whimper and pull at their leashes. You feel the first tremor. It is small, a shiver beneath your feet, a shift in the belly of the earth. The fountain water ripples, a clay jar tips over near the steps, and still no one moves. Then the second tremor comes, stronger, enough to stagger you slightly. A shutter falls from a second-story window. Screams begin, short-clipped, confused. You try to breathe, but the air is changing. It smells like fire now, fire and something bitter, like minerals scraped from deep underground. You look up again. The top of the mountain has cracked. Not exploded, not yet, but cracked. A thin white line, as though the peak has been sliced open by a god's blade. People are running now, everywhere. The dogs are loose. Children cry. The fig seller is shouting something you don't understand. And the boy with the lyre, he clutches the instrument to his chest and just stares at the mountain. You don't run. You stand in the center of it all, watching the city unravel, watching life peel away from the edges. The colors seem brighter now. The blue of the sky too deep. The red of the murals too sharp. The white of the marble too cruel. You smell wine and ash and fear. And then for just a moment the earth holds still again. Everything freezes, and Vesuvius screams. The scream isn't a sound you hear, it's one you feel. It starts in your stomach and spreads outward, a pressure that wraps around your ribs and pushes into your throat. The mountain doesn't explode in a single burst but opens like a wound. A plume of smoke, thick and black, rises straight into the sky like a pillar meant to hold up the heavens themselves. You watch it twist and swell, darkening the sun, turning the afternoon into dusk within minutes. The streets are chaos, but it's not yet panic, not the kind where everyone runs blindly. It's a confusion that crawls through the city like fog. Some people cry out to the gods, lifting their arms toward the sky. Others stand still, mouths open, unsure if what they see is real. A few begin to pack. You see a man frantically stuffing scrolls into a leather satchel, eyes wild, knuckles pale. Another woman throws coins into a bag but forgets her child, who stands behind her clutching a doll. You move through it all slowly. Not because you want to. Your legs feel heavy, your breath shallow. It's as if the air itself has thickened, dragging your limbs through syrup. You step past a broken amphora, wine bleeding into the cracks between stones like dark veins. Someone coughs, then another. The ash is beginning to fall like soft gray snow. It doesn't seem dangerous yet, just strange, delicate. You pass a house with the door still open. Inside, a table is set. Bread, olives, dried meats, 2 cups of wine. Whoever lived there left in a hurry. A single sandal lies at the doorway, a child's. From above, a thunderous crack. You glance up and see it, pieces of stone falling from the sky. Not burning, not yet glowing, but hot enough to break roof tiles and start small fires. One strikes the archway near the bathhouse. The stone splinters and a small chunk hits your shoulder. You stagger, not from pain, but from the realization that it has begun. This isn't a moment, it's an ending. Someone grabs your hand. A woman older, her eyes wide with dust and fear. She says something, her voice ragged, but the words are lost in the wind and rumble. She pulls you with surprising strength. You don't resist. Together you run through alleys narrowing with falling debris. The ash is heavier now. You can barely see the outlines of buildings. The world is becoming gray. She leads you to a doorway and pulls you inside. It's a storeroom. Dark. The only light comes through a small high window. You both lean against the wall, trying to catch your breath. She looks at you, eyes asking a question she doesn't speak. You nod. You're alive, for now. Time becomes strange here. You can't tell how long you stay in that room. Minutes, hours. The air is hot and bitter, and the light through the window shifts from gray to orange. At some point the woman opens a jar of water. You both drink in silence. Somewhere beyond the walls, screams rise and fall. Then silence. Then more screams. Then nothing at all. You leave the storeroom when the heat becomes too much. The woman stays. You promise with your eyes to come back. You know you won't. Outside, the city is unrecognizable. The forum is gone, buried beneath ash. Statues lie toppled. The sky is a swirling madness of red and black. Embers fall like dying stars. You walk through what was once a garden, now only skeletal trees and cracked fountains remain. The liar boy's fountain is gone. You don't know where he is. You hope he left. You see a man trying to dig. His hands are raw, his eyes wide and shining. He claws at the ash as if trying to pull the earth back open. There's a shape beside him, half covered, a foot, small. The man sobs silently, shaking, but never stops digging. You keep walking. Toward the harbor. That's where they say safety is. The ships, the water. The sea itself cannot burn, you tell yourself. As you move, others appear through the haze, shapes with human voices. Some cough, some weep. A few just walk like you with no destination left. The smell is unbearable now. Sulfur, smoke, flesh. You press a cloth to your mouth, but it does little. The ash covers everything, skin clothes memories. A man stumbles into you, eyes burned red, whispering prayers to Jupiter. He doesn't notice you. He's already gone in mind, if not yet in body. The gates of the city loom ahead. One has collapsed, the stone cracked clean through, but the other stands open. Beyond it, a road. People run toward it. Some fall, some rise again. You keep walking. You hear hooves, a cart, a man is shouting to the boats. You see him driving a mule, eyes wild with urgency. The cart is already full. A woman clings to the side, begging for space. The man doesn't stop. You don't try to climb on. You don't know why. Something in you says this is not your way out. As you pass the outer wall, you turn back once. Pompeii, once brilliant, once proud, once filled with song and laughter and bread and prayer, is vanishing into the ash. The murals, the temples, the bathhouses, the lovers and fighters, the old woman weaving the boy with the lyre, all of it softening, fading, folding into the gray. You don't cry. There is no time for grief, only the walk. Toward the sea, toward a sky that may never clear. You walk as though you are under water. Every step along the road to the sea is slow, heavy, muffled. The ash beneath your feet is deep now, like snow. It swallows your ankles with every step. The heat behind you pulses with each heartbeat of the volcano. Even from here the sky glows red, an angry wound against the horizon. But ahead the sea still waits. You can smell it. That faint salt, that promise of something untouched. The road is crowded now. Shadows stumble forward beside you, shapes wrapped in cloaks, arms shielding faces. You pass a man carrying his elderly father on his back. The old man clings weakly, whispering a name you don't know. A few paces ahead a young couple walks hand in hand, their fingers white from gripping so tightly. Neither speaks. Their clothes are scorched, but they hold their silence as if it were sacred. The air is harder to breathe now. Every inhale scratches your throat. You cough but do not stop. Around you more people fall behind. Some kneel by the side of the road, too tired to go on. Others sit in silence, their eyes fixed on the sky as though waiting for it to answer. You pass olive trees, their leaves blackened, their branches sagging beneath the weight of ash. The wind carries flakes through the air, dancing like ghost petals. Somewhere nearby a horse screams high and shrill, and then falls silent. The smell of burning hair follows. At a bend in the road you see a group huddled around a priest. His robes are stained with soot, but his voice is steady. He chants a prayer to Neptune. His words rise and fall, trying to reach the sea before you do. Some kneel, some weep. One young man laughs, not cruelly, but like someone who has lost the ability to understand fear. You do not stop. Your feet are blistered. Your mouth is dry. The road continues to slope downward, and the roar of the volcano grows fainter behind you. The sea is closer. You can feel it now in the coolness that begins to touch your skin. The scent of brine is stronger, cutting through the smoke like a promise. Then through the ash-clouded air you glimpse it, the harbor. The masts of ships, some still upright, others collapsed. People fill the shoreline. They cry out. Some wade into the water, hands raised as if it might lift them away. You hear the sound of wood on wood, a dock breaking apart under the weight of too many desperate bodies. Screams rise and fall like a tide. You hurry down the final slope. The stones are slick with wet ash. You nearly fall. A child grabs your hand to steady you. You look down. She's barefoot, her dress torn, her cheeks streaked with gray. She says nothing, just stares at the water. You squeeze her hand once. She lets go and runs ahead. At the harbor's edge there is madness. Men shove. Women scream. A boat pushes off from the dock, overloaded, creaking dangerously. A man dives into the water and tries to swim to it. He does not make it far. Another boat burns flames, licking at its sail, casting long shadows on the faces of those who watch helplessly from the shore. You scan the chaos, trying to find direction, but there is none, only noise, only fear. Then you hear your name. You turn. The woman from the storeroom, she found her way here. Her hair is coated in ash, her face blackened, but her eyes still sharp. She beckons you toward a small skiff already filling fast. She knows someone. She begs for space. The man at the boat's edge hesitates. You step forward. And then you stop. A boy, maybe 10, stands beside the dock holding the limp body of his sister. He doesn't cry. He doesn't speak. He just stands staring at the water. You meet his eyes for a second. That's all. A second. You turn back to the boat. It is full now. The woman pleads again. The man shakes his head. She turns to you, her mouth trembling, then steps aboard as it begins to push off. She looks back once, raises a hand, and vanishes into the mist. You do not follow. Instead, you walk to the boy. You kneel. He doesn't move. You lift the girl gently from his arms. She is light, too light. You carry her to the shoreline and lay her on the sand. Then you sit beside her. The boy sits next to you. Together you face the sea. Time passes. The wind shifts. The volcano rages behind you, but the sound is dull now, like a storm in another world. You hear only the lap of the waves and the soft hiss of ash meeting water. More people arrive. Some still try the boats. Others collapse on the sand, unable to go further. A few walk into the surf clothes, dragging behind them, eyes blank. You do not stop them. You sit and wait. The sky above the sea begins to lighten, not with sunrise that is still far off, but with a strange pale glow. The stars have faded. A quiet has settled, not peace, but the stillness of exhaustion. The fire has roared. The city has fallen. What remains now are only the breaths of the survivors, scattered and slow, like embers cooling in the wind. You close your eyes. You are still. You are ash and flesh and memory. And Pompeii sleeps behind you, buried beneath a mountain's anger. The silence doesn't last. It never truly does. Even after the screams have stopped and the fires have burned themselves into memory, the world continues to hum softly beneath your skin. You hear it now, beneath the waves, beneath the wind, like a lullaby sung by something ancient. Not comforting, not cruel, just enduring. You open your eyes. The boy is still beside you. His arms are wrapped around his knees. His sister lies motionless on the sand, the ash outlining her small face, her hair stiffened with salt and dust. A gull calls somewhere out on the rocks, its cry thin and lonely. The sea rolls on, gentle now, as if unaware of the hell that burns behind it. The sky is turning gray-blue. Morning. You are surprised by that. You didn't think morning would come again. The volcano's roar has lessened, not gone but softened, like a distant storm whose rage has tired. Smoke still rises in the distance, painting long bruised streaks across the heavens. But here by the water the air feels clearer, not safe but less choked by fury. People begin to move again. They rise in slow, painful gestures, like those waking from too deep a sleep. A woman walks to the edge of the sea and washes her face. Her fingers tremble as she cups the water, but she does it anyway. A small act of dignity. A man nearby digs through the sand with both hands, as if hoping to find something buried that hasn't been ruined. A ring, a coin, a reason. You help the boy up. He doesn't resist. His eyes are dull, not blank, but paused, like the city before the first tremor. You brush the ash from his shoulder. He doesn't flinch. Together you begin to walk again, but now it's no longer about escape. It's about finding what's left. The road that once led from the harbor back toward the hills is buried in some places, still walkable in others. You step over broken wheels, fallen carts, scorched sandals. The land is no longer familiar, even to those who were born here. Pompeii is a name, not a place now. The shape of it remains: corners of buildings, outlines of homes, stone columns poking from the ash like bones, but the soul has gone quiet. You pass what used to be a garden. The hedges are blackened stumps, the flowers erased. But in the center a statue still stands. A marble fawn flute pressed to lips, forever frozen in a silent dance. The boy stops to stare at it. You wonder if he remembers it from before, from when things still smelled of lavender and citrus. You leave the statue behind. Further inland the air thickens again. Not with smoke, but with memory. The ground is uneven, the ash mounding in places like waves. You see shapes beneath it, a hand here, a foot there, a broken jug, the curve of a shoulder. You don't uncover them. You don't need to. You already know. Somewhere ahead a group of survivors are gathered. 10, maybe 12. They sit in a rough circle around a fire that barely glows. They've built it from driftwood, bits of broken carts, and whatever the ash has not yet claimed. They don't speak much, just watch each other with eyes that hold too much. You approach slowly, the boy close at your side. They make space for you both. No one asks your names. No one needs to. You are all pieces of the same shattered vessel now. An older man hands you a cloth bundle inside a few figs, bruised but edible. A girl passes you a skin of water. You share with the boy. He eats with slow, robotic movements, but he eats. That's something. Someone begins to speak, an old woman with hair like silver threads and a voice like wind through reeds. She tells a story, not of the mountain, not of the fire, but of a festival years ago when the streets were filled with music and the fountains ran with wine. She talks of dancers in gold ribbons of laughter that echoed through the alleys of lights strung from balcony to balcony. Her voice cracks near the end. No one says anything, but everyone listens. And in that moment Pompeii lives again. Not in its stone or its streets or its buildings, but in the quiet space between memory and breath. Night comes again. The stars return, muted by the haze, but still present. Someone has found a piece of harp string pulled tight between two sticks. They pluck it softly, a single note, then another. It's not a song, it's a heartbeat. You lie on your side, the boy curled beside you. The fire flickers low. The others sleep or pretend to. You watch the horizon where the volcano still smokes, but the sky above it is no longer bleeding, just black. You think of the woman from the storeroom, of the baker with the strong arms, of the boy with the lyre. of the statues and the mosaics and the wine staining the streets, of the way the light hit the marble just before the tremors began. You think of a city that didn't die, not really, but was folded gently into the earth like a memory into cloth. Buried, yes, but remembered, always. The boy sighs in his sleep. And you close your eyes, not from fear, but from the first touch of peace. You wake before the sun, not to sound, not to movement, but to stillness. A stillness so complete it feels like it belongs to another world. The kind of silence that comes after something has broken, not the sharpness of the crack, but the echo that follows, stretching long into the quiet. Around you the survivors sleep in curled shapes, bodies folded into themselves like leaves in late autumn. The fire has gone out, leaving only a faint glow beneath the ash-covered wood. The boy beside you stirs, breathes, but doesn't wake. His face, now softer without the gray mask of ash, looks almost peaceful in the half-light. You wonder what he dreams. If he still sees the mountain, or if his mind has slipped further back into the safety of days before the sky turned black. You rise quietly. Your feet sink into the ash as you move through the campsite. It's cold now, not with the bitterness of winter, but with the emptiness that follows fire. The wind has calmed. The smoke has thinned. For the first time in days, or has it been longer, you can see the outline of hills in the distance. The sea behind you is still reflecting the pale hints of morning like a mirror held up to a cracked sky. You don't speak to anyone. You simply begin to walk. The road ahead is unfamiliar. Even if it once led to another village or another market, it no longer remembers where it was going. The landscape has changed. Trees are black silhouettes, their leaves lost. Stones are coated in dust. Every now and then you pass the husk of a home wall's half-standing doors, missing life peeled away. You walk without purpose, but not without direction. Your body chooses the path for you, driven by instinct more than will. You pass an overturned cart, its wheels still spinning slowly from the wind. A jug lies beside it, cracked open dried wine painting the earth like a wound. Ahead on the left side of the path you see something strange. A fresco. It's still there, clinging to a half-fallen wall. The colors, though faded, are visible: red gold, a deep blue. It shows a woman holding a bowl of fruit, her robes flowing behind her as if caught in eternal wind. Her face is serene. The edges of the plaster are crumbling, but she remains. You stop and look, and for a moment you remember color. Not just the shade, but the feeling of it. The taste of ripe figs. The flash of a red cloak in sunlight. The blue of a painted sky inside a temple dome. You let the image rest in your eyes before turning away. A few hours later you reach the edge of what once might have been a village. There are people here more than you expected. Dozens, maybe more. They've gathered around a well. Some wait in line quiet, holding whatever containers they could carry. Others simply sit their backs against broken columns, their eyes on the dirt. You blend into the edge of the crowd. There are no shouts, no commands. No one tells anyone what to do. Grief has made everyone soft around the edges, like parchment too long in the sun. You see a woman combing ash from a child's hair with her fingers. A man sits with an old clay flute in his lap, polishing it with the corner of his cloak. You hear a voice calling your name. It is soft, hoarse, but unmistakable. You turn. The woman from the storeroom is there. She looks thinner now, her cheeks hollow, but her eyes are the same. She smiles, not wide, not with joy, but with recognition, with relief. You walk to her, and for a moment neither of you says anything. She places a hand on your arm. Her grip is steady. "I thought you were gone," she says. You nod. "So did I." She brings you to where she's settled. A cloth stretched between two beams gives a little shade. A few others sit nearby sharing food, passing a waterskin wrapping cloth around burned feet. You recognize some from the harbor. Others are new, but all of them wear the same expression, as if they've left something behind they can never explain. She asks about the boy. You tell her he's alive, still resting by the sea with others. She nods. Her gaze turns distant for a moment. "We'll all find our way back," she murmurs. "Or forward, whichever comes first." Later, as the sun climbs higher, she hands you a piece of parchment. It's blank, clean, something precious saved from the ruin. Along with it a charcoal stub. "Write it down," she says. You look at her. She shrugs. "Someone should." So you sit beneath what's left of a fig tree and begin. The words do not come easily at first, but slowly, line by line, you start to remember. The marketplace, the fountain, the bread still warm from the oven, the boy with the lyre, the sound of laughter just before the earth cracked open. You write not as a historian, not as a survivor, but as someone who remembers color, someone who remembers stillness and then fire. You do not write of the mountain or of the gods or of punishment. You write of the woman weaving in the shade, of a child chasing a fig down the street, of the way light touched the murals just before they were swallowed whole. You write because someone should, and as you finish you look up. The breeze has returned light and dry, lifting a curl of ash from the parchment's edge. The woman sits nearby, her eyes closed, face tilted toward the sun. Somewhere in the distance a new sound begins. A hammer striking stone. The first sound of rebuilding. The sound of the hammer stays with you. It echoes across the broken land like a heartbeat slow measured alive. You don't know who is striking it or where, but each blow slices through the silence like a promise. Not of restoration, not yet, but of will. The will to begin again even when nothing makes sense, even when the sky still smells of smoke, and the ground still trembles with memory. You fold the parchment gently and tuck it into a clay jar, wrapping it in cloth to keep the ash from erasing your words. You don't know where it will go. You only know that someday someone might read it. And if they do, they will know that you were here not just to witness the fall, but to remember the shape of the world before it fell. By afternoon you decide to return. Not to the city. That's impossible now, but to the shore, to the boy. The walk back is longer this time. Your legs are sore, your sandals cracked and rubbed thin. The sun presses down on the land, turning the ash to powder that rises in clouds around your steps. Every once in a while, you stop, take a sip of water, close your eyes, and just listen. To wind, to wings overhead, to life inching back. When you finally reach the coastline, the sea is calm again. The horizon is pale, brushed in silver and faint gold. The boy is there just as you left him, sitting in the same place, his back to the mountain, his eyes on the water. Around him are others, not many, but more than before. A cluster of people gathered near the rocks, speaking in quiet tones, building small fires, tying together scraps of cloth into makeshift sails. You sit beside the boy. He glances at you, then returns to the sea. No words are needed. A few minutes later he reaches into the folds of his tunic and pulls out something small, a carved wooden bird. Simple, rough around the edges, but shaped with care. Its wings are outstretched as if it's forever mid-flight. He offers it to you. You take it. It is light in your hand, but warm from his. You nod in thanks. He doesn't speak, but for the first time you see something shift in his expression. Not a smile, not yet, but something softer. A crack in the stone. As dusk approaches, a man nearby begins to tell a story. He doesn't stand. He simply speaks, his voice carrying over the gentle crash of waves. He talks of a merchant who once sailed from Pompeii to Alexandria carrying jars of honey and ink. Of how he would return with spices and scrolls, of how he believed every journey was a conversation between gods. His story meanders, sometimes into myth, sometimes into memory, but no one interrupts. The boy listens too. His hands rest in his lap, still and open. As the man finishes, another takes his place. A woman this time. She tells of her sister who danced during festivals and always wore yellow, who loved figs, who sang badly but loudly, who never came back from the house they shared. She doesn't cry. She just tells it. And when she's done, someone else begins. One by one, people share. Names, images, fragments of lives scraped together from what ash has not taken. It's not grief they offer. It's not healing either. It's something older, something quieter. Witness, you do not speak that night, but you listen. And somewhere inside your chest, where the heat of the eruption had hollowed out, a warmth begins to grow. Later you find yourself alone by the water's edge. You crouch down and dip your fingers into the sea. The cold bites gently welcome after days of smoke and fire. You close your eyes. The mountain looms behind you, still silent for now. But in this moment it has no voice. The world belongs to the waves. When you stand again, the boy is beside you. He hands you a stone, smooth, pale, polished by the sea. There's nothing special about it. But you keep it anyway, because he gave it to you. Because it came from water, not fire. Because it fits in your hand like something meant to be held. That night you dream. You dream of the city as it was not perfect, not eternal, but alive. The sounds of vendors shouting, children laughing, the sizzle of oil in pans, the low hum of prayers in the temple. You see faces. Some you knew, some you only passed by. But in the dream they all turn to look at you, and they smile. Not with sadness, but with knowing. When you wake, the stars are fading. A new day is beginning. People are preparing boats now. Not to escape, there is nowhere left to run but to search. For food, for family, for land not yet choked in dust. You and the boy join them. You help gather rope patch holes in hulls, carry water jars down to the shore. There is laughter again. Not much, not loud, but real. A man slips on a wet stone and curses in a string of words that make the others grin. Someone sings off-key. A woman throws a handful of ash at her brother and he yelps in protest. It is not joy, it is life. And that is enough. The boats push off one by one, gliding into the morning light. The sea opens before them, vast and quiet. The boy stands beside you watching. He points to one, a small vessel patched with 3 colors of cloth. You nod. It's time. You step into the boat. The wood creaks beneath your weight. The sail snaps once, then fills. And slowly, steadily, the shore begins to slip away behind you. You do not look back. You carry it with you. The oars dip into the sea with a rhythm that lulls the world into silence. Each stroke pulls you farther from the shore, but it isn't distance that you feel most its weight. The weight of memory, of ash still clinging to your hair, of silence that echoes in the corners of your chest like the faint ringing left after a bell. You sit near the boy, your knees tucked close, your hand resting lightly on the wooden side of the boat. It's not seaworthy by any merchant standard. The planks are mismatched, the nails uneven, the sail a patchwork of linen and old tunics, but it floats, and that's all anyone needs now. The sea is calmer than it has any right to be. It doesn't roar like the mountain or rush to meet you with waves. It stretches endlessly flat silver, the sky and water almost indistinguishable in the early haze. The sun hasn't fully risen yet, but the edge of it glows through the mist, casting the world in a pale amber that makes everything seem like a faded memory. You don't speak. No one does. There are 5 of you on the boat. You, the boy. An older man who rows with arms too thin for the task, a woman clutching a bundle wrapped in faded wool, and a young fisherman with scars on his face who stares into the horizon as though trying to remember the shape of something lost. Time bends strangely on the water. You don't know if minutes or hours pass as the boat drifts forward, pulled more by the breath of wind than by the arms of those aboard. The shore fades behind you until it becomes nothing more than a gray line smudged across the base of the sky. You feel your body sway with the movement of the sea, and for the first time in many days, you do not feel the shaking of the earth beneath your feet. That's when you notice the birds. 3 of them gliding overhead, white against the dark blue sky. They circle once, then dip lower their wings, catching the light in flashes of gold and shadow. One lets out a short cry, high and sharp, cutting through the stillness like a needle through silk. The boy looks up. You watch the shadow of the bird cross his face, and for a moment his lips part. He says nothing, but the look in his eyes has changed. There's something in the distance now, faint at first like a mirage, a suggestion of green. The fisherman sees it too. He stands slowly, shielding his eyes, his stance unsteady. Then he points. Land. The word comes out rough, as if his throat has forgotten how to shape it. But the meaning is clear. Everyone turns. You see it. A low rise, pale cliffs softened by distance, a few scattered trees barely visible above the line of stone. Not a city. Not a port, but land, untouched, unburied. Hope made physical. The rowing picks up. Slowly at first, then faster. The old man grits his teeth, pushing with what strength he has left. The boy crawls to the front, leaning over the edge, his eyes locked on the shape ahead. The woman with the bundle presses it close to her chest and begins to hum. It's not a melody, you know, but it's soft, steady, like the beat of an old memory rising again. As you draw closer, the coastline sharpens. Rocks, sand, wild grasses bending in the sea wind. The boat grinds gently into the shallows. The fisherman jumps first, wading through waist-high water to pull the vessel closer. The others follow, stepping into the surf with quiet urgency. The cold bites your legs, but you welcome it. It makes everything real. You help the boy out of the boat. His hand clings to yours tighter than before. Together you walk onto the beach. The sand here is different, lighter, less stained. The air is clearer, too tinged not with smoke, but salt and the green scent of leaves. The birds wheel overhead again, louder now. You feel them calling you forward. The woman unwraps her bundle. Inside is a small clay idol, a household god worn but intact. She kneels and places it gently at the base of a rock. She murmurs something in a language only she knows. A farewell, a thank you, a beginning. The others explore the tree line. There's no path, no road, but the land opens enough to walk. You stay on the beach for a while longer, letting the sun warm your back, watching the boat rock gently in the tide. It doesn't look like much, but it carried you. That matters. You feel the boy tug at your sleeve. He points toward a rise in the land, a small hill covered in grass. He starts walking and you follow. At the top you can see farther. The land stretches inland, rolling and wild. You spot a stream glittering in the distance. More birds. Something that might be the outline of an old field. And below, on the far side of the hill, another group of people. They are setting up camp, tents made of sails, fires built in circles of stone, children gathering driftwood. Someone is singing again, louder this time, a real song. You can't make out the words, but the tune feels familiar, like something once sung in a marketplace. The boy sits. You sit beside him. He leans against your shoulder, and for the first time truly he sleeps. You watch the waves below. The volcano is far behind now, but you know it will never disappear. Not from the world, not from the sky, not from your bones. You carry it with you, but so too do you carry this hill, this boy, this morning. This moment where the world, still bruised and broken, turns its face slowly back toward the light. The days that follow arrive like whispers. They do not announce themselves with the fire and fury of before, but with soft things. The crackle of a new fire being lit from dry leaves. The hollow clunk of water drawn from the stream and poured into clay bowls. The fluttering of sails repurposed into shelter, catching the wind like old hands learning to hold again. And somewhere in the distance, a flute, just a few notes. Tentative trembling, as if memory itself is trying to find its voice. You wake to the sound of feet in grass, children playing. Their laughter is cautious at first, like something not yet allowed, but it grows, each day louder, each day more certain. They run barefoot through the sand, tracing shapes with sticks, turning driftwood into forts and ash-gray stones into game pieces. None of them speak of what came before, but it is there behind their eyes, in the way they hold each other's hands a little too tightly when the wind rises. The boy is among them now. He speaks little still, but he moves with purpose. He helps build carrying stones for the fire circles, tying branches for the frames of shelters. He sharpens sticks. He listens. He watches. And every now and then, when he thinks no one sees him, he hums. It's a tune you don't recognize. Perhaps something his sister used to sing. Or perhaps something new born in the hush after loss. You live by the rhythm of the sun again. Mornings are for gathering. You and a small group set out into the woods to forage berries, roots, herbs with sharp scents and stranger names. Sometimes you find mushrooms that the old woman from the harbor identifies with a squint and a nod. She is nearly blind in one eye, but she remembers the plants, remembers their textures, their smells. She teaches you slowly, without explanation, just repetition and touch. You begin to trust your hands. Afternoons are for building, stone by stone, rope by rope. What rises here isn't a village yet. It has no name, but it has shape, order, a place for meals, a place for sleeping, a flat stone used as a table, a branch hung with bells made of shells that rattle softly in the wind. You carve patterns into wood, not because it is needed, but because it feels right. Spirals, leaves, the curve of waves. Evenings are for remembering, not aloud, not always, but in the way people gather around fires and stare into the flames like they're reading old letters. Sometimes someone tells a story. Sometimes someone just sings. Often there is only silence, a companion now, not a threat. You sit beside the boy, always beside him, the carved bird in your lap, the stone he gave you in your pocket. He leans his shoulder into yours like a promise. One night a storm rolls in from the sea. Not like Vesuvius, not a killer, just rain and wind and thunder that grumbles like an old man waking. The tents shudder, the fires hiss, but no one screams. No one runs. People brace the frames of their shelters, laugh when they get soaked, press close under awnings like children caught in mischief. You and the boy watch the rain from beneath an overturned boat. The world smells clean. The air tastes like copper and pine. The boy holds his hand out into the rain and lets it fill his palm. And then he speaks. One word. Cold. His voice is hoarse, barely more than a breath. But it is a voice. You turn to him. He is smiling, just a little. And it is the first time you realize that you too are still here. You too can speak, and laugh, and feel. You say his name, the one you gave him when he wouldn't speak. He nods, accepts it now, wears it like a cloak. When the storm passes, it leaves the land glistening. Puddles mirror the stars. The air feels thick with something new, not mourning, not fear, but potential. In the morning you find the old man who rose sitting on a rock by the sea, carving wood with a small blade. He holds up a half-finished figure, a tiny horse, and shrugs. I used to make toys, he says. You sit beside him. He hands you a block of wood. You begin to carve, unsure of what will emerge. It doesn't matter. Everything begins this way now without knowing. At the water's edge, new boats are being built. Not to leave, not yet, but to fish, to explore the coastline, to feel the world beneath them again. You see sails being stitched from old robes, nets woven from hair and reed. The boy helps mend one threading line with a patience beyond his years. That night someone finds a bottle washed ashore. Inside a scroll, blank but dry, a gift from the sea. The fisherman who first saw land writes the names of the dead, slowly, carefully, each name followed by a mark, a star, a bird, a wave. You take the scroll when he offers it to you. You add one name, then another. You write them all, not just those who perished, but those who survived, and those who became something in between. You hang the scroll from a beam above the fire where it flutters like a banner, and the people begin to call the place something. Not Pompeii, never again, but something new. Born not of stone and glory, but of silence and sky and ash and water, a place where memory breathes, and you at its heart. Still breathing, too. The name they choose is not shouted. It isn't carved in stone or blessed by a priest. It begins as a whisper passed from one person to another in the quiet spaces between chores, between breaths. A child says it first when pointing to the hills. Then a woman repeats it while smoothing the roof of her shelter. Soon it's used in directions, in songs, in the way people describe the sky as it settles over their new home. It means nothing in Latin. Not a city of war, not a tribute to emperors or gods. It is a word of water and wind shaped by the sound of waves curling over rock. A soft word, a survivor's word. You don't remember who started it, but one morning you hear yourself say it aloud and it feels right in your mouth like a stone worn smooth by time. This is where you live now. The days begin to stack like stones, unremarkable in isolation, but together they build something lasting. The ash has been scrubbed away from skin, from hair, from the corners of tents. Children no longer smell of smoke. Their voices ring clear. They play near the edge of the forest now, gathering berries, climbing trees, daring each other to cross streams barefoot and shivering. You hear their laughter echo through the trees, high and sharp like flutes. The boy is one of them. You still see the shadow of Pompeii in his eyes, in the way he flinches at thunder, in the way he clutches the stone you gave him in moments of silence, but it no longer rules him. He runs with the others now, swift and sure. When he returns in the evenings, his face is sun-warmed and streaked with dirt. He eats more, he sleeps deeper, he dreams, and once you hear him laugh in his sleep, that's when you begin to believe, not in gods, not in destiny, but in the human capacity to grow where nothing should. One afternoon a woman approaches you. She is tall and quiet, with silver-threaded hair, and the kind of stillness you've only seen in statues. She carries a scroll under her arm, worn and patched. The ink faded in places, but still legible. She sits beside you on the hill where the grass bends to the sea wind. "I heard you write," she says. You nod. "I used to teach," she adds, before. Before. The word hangs there, so simple, so heavy. She unrolls the scroll. It's a map. Not of Pompeii. Of places beyond harbors, old roads, names that once meant trade and travel. She points to one faint near the edge. "There might be others," she says, "other people, other places like this." You study the lines. They seem both familiar and impossibly distant. But the thought of others surviving, of other fires still burning in the distance, awakens something in your chest. She gives you the scroll. "Write our story," she says. You begin again. Not from the beginning. Not from fire or smoke. But from the moment the boat touched shore. From the child handing you a bird. From the first voice singing in the dark. You write the names, the meals, the games, the way the trees bend in the wind. You write not to remember death, but to document the bloom of life after it. The scroll grows longer. You tie pages together, stitch them with thread borrowed from a fisherman's net. It becomes a book, not to be sold, not to be read by strangers, but to be passed from hand to hand like a story around a fire. A few weeks later a traveler arrives, not from the sea, but the woods. A man with a limp and a walking stick wrapped in a faded cloak. He carries nothing but a satchel of herbs and a flute made of bone. He says nothing when he first arrives, just watches, listens, stands beneath the tree where the bells hang. When he does speak, his voice is gravel and warmth. "I saw the mountain," he says, "from the far valley." People gather. He tells of other towns buried, of rivers turned black with ash, of cities gone silent. But he also speaks of a woman who lit a lamp every night, even when no one came, of a shepherd who carved new paths when the old ones vanished, of people who looked up from ruin and chose to plant seeds in it. When he finishes, he accepts a bowl of stew, drinks deeply, and begins to play his flute. That night the stars are clearer than they've been in months. The boy sits close to you, his head resting on your shoulder. The sea murmurs below, patient as ever. And in the distance beyond the hills, you swear you see another light, A fire, not wildfire, not destruction, but a signal, an answer, hope. The people begin to speak of building boats again. Bigger ones, not to flee, to find, and for the first time you think maybe the world didn't end that day. Maybe it only began again quieter, smaller, but stronger for it. You write that down. The words feel true. And when the boy wakes the next morning and asks you where you're going, you smile. We're going forward, you say. Forward, as it turns out, is not a straight path. It winds. It stumbles. Some days it doubles back and disappears into fog, leaving only footprints and memory to mark where it once was. But still you walk it. Not because you know what lies ahead, but because what lies behind has taught you the price of standing still. The fire that once devoured the sky has become a story now. A heavy one, a sacred one, but no longer the only one. The traveler with the flute stays for weeks. He teaches the children how to carve simple instruments from reeds. The clearing behind the camp fills with sound, high, squeaking notes, laughter mistakes. They make music like someone learning to speak again after silence. Sometimes it's beautiful, sometimes it's just noise, but always it is alive. Others arrive little by little, a woman with ash in her braids and a limp from falling debris. Two brothers who bring with them a bundle of salvaged scrolls, half burned but still legible in places. A girl no older than 10 who speaks not a word, but draws with coal on every surface she can find stones, driftwood, her own arms. Her drawings are strange and wide-eyed and full of birds. Each new arrival is welcomed without question. They are fed, clothed, given space by the fire. No one asks for their story unless they offer it. Everyone understands now that some grief is too heavy to carry with language. The camp grows slowly. Tents become huts. Huts become homes. A central hearth is built, wide flat stones stacked carefully, always warm, always open. People gather there not just for food, but to speak, to plan, to remember. Someone strings rope across 2 trees and hangs charms from it, beads, bone scraps of old fabric, offerings perhaps, or prayers. And in time they decide to send the boats. 3 at first. You help build them. The wood is rough, scavenged from shipwrecks and fallen trees. The sails are dyed with crushed berries and ink made from soot. The hulls are carved with symbols not of gods but of stars, waves, birds in flight. The boy watches you work. He asks questions now. Why the wood curves this way? Why the ropes must be tight but not too tight? Why some boats sink? Why others don't? You answer what you can. What you don't know, you admit. That, too, is something the fire taught you, the strength of saying, I don't know. The morning of the launch, the whole settlement gathers at the shore. There's no ceremony, no speeches, just hands on shoulders, just quiet nods and eyes that hold both fear and promise. You board the second boat, not because you want to leave, but because it's time. The boy watches from the hill. He does not cry. He holds the wooden bird in his hands and raises it once as you push away from the sand. The sea accepts you with a long sigh. The world opens again. Your boat glides along the coast, first hugging the land, reading its scars. You pass cliffs stained with ash forests, thinned by flame rivers that run dark and cold. But then something shifts. The water grows clearer, the trees more green. You begin to see signs of life again. Birds nesting, deer near the shore, small huts in the distance with smoke curling from their chimneys. On the 3rd day you find them. A village built into the slope of a hill tucked behind reeds and stones. They greet you with suspicion, first spears, raised eyes, wary. But when you speak the name of your new home, something softens in them. They lower their weapons. They bring you bread. You tell your story. Not the fire, not yet, but the boat, the child, the scroll, the beginning again. They listen, and they tell their own. Not all of them had ash. Some had flood. Some had sickness. Some had nothing at all, just the quiet fear of isolation. But now they are not alone. You stay for a night, then another. By the 5th day they offer to come with you. 3 men, 2 women, a child who has never seen the sea. You give them space on the boat. You show them how to tie the sail. You return. And when your boat crests the final wave and the hill comes into view, the boy is there. Waiting. He does not wave. He does not run. But his face lights up. You dock. You step onto sand. He walks to you silent. You hold out your hand. He places the wooden bird back into it. Its wings have been polished smooth. It has flown even while standing still. That night the village glows with firelight and movement. People gather around, new stories, new names, new songs. And you, for the first time, sit quietly and listen without needing to speak. You have carried the story far enough. Now others will carry it forward. You find yourself waking earlier now. Before the birds, before the sun has spilled its light across the hills. The world in those quiet hours is cold and silver like the inside of a shell. You step outside your shelter feet, pressing into damp earth, and stand at the edge of the path that leads to the sea. The boy is often there before you. He sits on the same rock chin, on knees, staring out into the endless dark blue shimmer where water meets sky. He doesn't speak. He doesn't need to. You sit beside him, and together you wait for the light. The village is different now. Not just larger, not just more organized. It breathes differently. It carries itself with a rhythm. There are paths now, real ones, trodden into the earth by days and days of feet moving with purpose. There is a well that doesn't run dry. A bell made from a salvaged bronze bowl that rings at twilight to call everyone to eat. There is a school, not with benches or scrolls or wax tablets, but a shaded spot beneath a wide tree where the children gather and learn names for leaves and clouds and stars. Where old songs are taught, where hands learn to weave and eyes learn to read the wind. You help sometimes. You show them how to write, how to shape letters slowly and carefully with burnt sticks on bark or pressed clay. You teach them not just what words mean, but how to listen to silence between them. You write more now, not for memory, for guidance. You are asked to help keep the story. The scrolls become books. The books become shared, passed from hand to hand. The pages hold more than just what happened. They hold what was felt, what was feared, what was dreamed. You begin a new one with the title scratched faintly into the first page after the ash. You find that the more you write, the less you need to carry. Some nights you walk the edge of the village, tracing its borders with your steps. You pass the homes, some still made of sailcloth, others with stone and thatch. You pass the fishing nets drying by the fire, the carved stones left in a circle near the shore where people leave offerings, feathers, bits of glass, a child's tooth, a slice of bread. You pass the girl who draws now older painting murals on the side of the hill with pigments crushed from berries and charcoal. Her birds have wings now, and they fly. The boy walks beside you more often now, though he still speaks little. He watches everything, the way trees lean, the way the clouds fold into each other, the way people's eyes shift when they lie or love or ache. You see in him the beginnings of someone who will lead one day, not with orders, but with presence. One morning he brings you a bundle wrapped in old linen, inside a scroll, familiar, charred at the edges. It's yours, the first one you wrote, the one buried in the jar. He must have gone back. To the coast, to the place where the first camp had been. You look at him. He doesn't explain. You nod, understanding. He returns to his quiet, and you to your breath. Later you gather the others. The old teacher, the traveler, the brothers who saved the burned scrolls. You unroll your writing on the table beneath the largest tree and begin reading aloud. It's the first time you hear your own words spoken. They sound different in the open air, lighter somehow. You see heads nod, eyes close, hands tighten on knees. When you finish, no one claps. No one says anything for a long moment. Then the teacher stands. She says only one thing. Keep going. So you do? The writing becomes a ritual, not sacred, just necessary. You document not only what has happened, but who people are becoming. You write about the boy and the way he tilts his head when thinking, the woman who sings while she weaves, the man who walks with a limp but knows every path through the hills, the child who ties bells into the fur of the village dogs and laughs as they jingle through the streets. One day a ship appears on the horizon, not a fishing boat, not a handmade vessel, a real ship, tall, proud, unfamiliar. It doesn't come close. It hovers on the edge of the world like a question. Someone lights a signal fire. You wait. The ship turns and sails away. No one chases. You all stand on the shore, wind in your hair, watching it disappear. The teacher murmurs, "Not all are ready." And you agree. This place is not hidden, but it is not yet ready to be known. It needs more time to heal, to root, to grow into itself. In the weeks that follow, people begin carving stones, smooth wide ones, and painting them with words. Not names, not titles, just single thoughts. Begin. Remember. Grow. Stay. You find one at your door one evening. It says, "Listen." You keep it near your writing table. As the days grow warmer, the boy speaks more. He asks about the world. What's beyond the sea? What lies over the mountains? What's worth finding? And what's worth leaving? You tell him the truth. That you don't know, but that he will. When he's ready, you see in his gaze the same pull that once sent you drifting from ash toward horizon. And you know he will go one day. He will carry the story further than you ever could. But not yet. Not today. Today you sit beneath the tree. You dip your fingers in ink. You press them to parchment. And you write, "The fire came, but we stayed, and we built a world from the quiet it left behind." The season turns quietly. There is no grand shift, no ceremony. Just the slow lengthening of days, the warmth returning to the soil, the way shadows move differently across the ground. You notice it in the way people walk a little lighter, as though their bodies are no longer bracing against memory with every breath. You feel it in the mornings when the air is thick with birdsong instead of silence, and the children rise before the sun just to chase the light. The boy has grown, not just taller though he has. His shoulders are broader now, his movements more sure. He speaks with more confidence, asks harder questions. You watch him from a distance sometimes as he walks with others through the forest, mapping trails, marking trees, learning not just the land, but how to lead upon it. He returns each evening with something new, a plant to identify, a story he heard from a wanderer in the North Fields, a question about stars or death or the sound dreams make when you wake. He still carries the wooden bird you gave him. He's carved symbols into its wings now, waves, a tree, a single eye. You never ask him what they mean. You know he'll tell you when he's ready. You spend your days much the same, writing, listening, walking the village paths like a heartbeat. You've started a second book, this one about the present, not the past, a record of how things grow, what they eat, what they plant, the way laughter spreads like fire when someone falls into the river, the first tooth a child loses, the first fish caught by a girl who had never seen the sea before she arrived. It's not dramatic, but it's real, and that's all it needs to be. The painter, the girl who used to draw only birds, has begun painting people now, not with exactness, with feeling. She paints the boy with storm clouds above his head and a sun blooming beneath his feet. She paints you with hands made of roots and a spine like a scroll. When you see it, you laugh, then you cry, then you thank her. She nods once and walks away. One morning the bell rings early. A scout has returned from the hills with news a new group is coming, dozens, maybe more. They've been traveling for weeks, guided by rumors and smoke signals and old memories that pointed toward the sea. The village begins to move with quiet urgency. Fires are rekindled, food is shared, extra hands gather stones for shelters, fresh leaves for bedding. There's no fear, only readiness. You stand at the edge of the path when they arrive. They come in silence. Dust-covered, sunburned eyes, wide and hollow, but alive. You see in them the same look you once carried, the cautious wonder of someone who survived what shouldn't have been survivable. And then, like a wave breaking, the welcome begins. Arms open, food offered, names exchanged. You see the boy helping a woman who limps. You see the old teacher pressing water into the hands of a child. You see the flute player guiding a blind man toward the central fire. And no one speaks of what was lost. Not yet. Only what is here. That night the fires burn longer. There is music again, new songs, new rhythms. People from the new group sing in a language none of you know, but the melody is easy to follow, and soon everyone joins in, letting the sound carry them like a current. You sit beside the boy. He's holding the stone you gave him again, turning it in his hand slowly. "I think I want to go," he says. Not urgently, just truthfully. You nod. He continues. "Not now, but soon. There's more out there, and I want to bring it back." You place your hand over his. "Then you will." He doesn't ask your permission. He doesn't need it. He already understands that the story doesn't stop when someone leaves. It stretches. It deepens. It ripples outward. A few nights later you climb the hill together, the same one where you first saw the boats return. You lie on your backs and look at the stars. The boy traces constellations with his finger, making up names you've never heard. You listen. You smile. Then he turns to you and says, "Will you write this part too?" And you say, "Of course." Because every ending is another chapter in disguise. The wind rustles the grass. The village glows below, golden and flickering. And the sea beyond it whispers not of fire anymore, but of possibilities. The morning he leaves, the sky is wrapped in mist. Not the heavy ash-gray fog of days long buried, but something gentler. The kind of mist that softens the world like gauze over a wound that has long since scarred. The sun has not yet broken through, but the sea is already shifting, restless in its own quiet language. The boy, the young man, now stands at the water's edge with a pack slung across his back, and the wooden bird tied carefully to his belt. He is not alone. The whole village has gathered, not in a circle, not in a line, but in the loose, natural shape that people make when they no longer need to be told how to come together. Some carry small gifts, bread wrapped in cloth, bundles of herbs for fever, a carved stone for luck. The old woman who once taught beneath the tree hands him a scroll tied with simple thread. "Write it down," she says, echoing words you once gave her. He promises he will. The flute player, now nearly blind, plays a low and winding tune. It sounds like the wind through tall grass, or the way the ocean breathes between waves. A goodbye, not of sadness, but of rhythm. You approach last. You hand him another scroll wrapped in waxed cloth. It holds his story, everything you've written since he arrived in your world, with ash on his cheeks and silence in his throat. He takes it with both hands. He holds it to his chest for a long time before tucking it inside his satchel. No words are needed between you. He turns toward the boat. It is small but sturdy, built from memory, from hands that have learned not just how to survive, but how to create. The sail bears the mark of your village now, a circle with 3 curved lines like waves meeting the sun. As he steps into the vessel, the mist begins to lift. You see the water ahead, long and endless, and he sails. The sea receives him as it did you once, not with welcome or warning, but with space. Space to drift, to discover, to return. You watch until the boat becomes a shape, then a shadow, then a speck, then memory, and you turn back, not with ache, but with understanding. Life in the village moves on. The rhythm continues. That day a child is born, a girl with strong lungs and tiny fists. Her mother names her after the wind that blew when the boats first returned. The bell rings twice to mark her arrival. 2 short tones, a beginning. You help build a shelter for a new family arriving from the southern edge of the forest. They speak in clipped syllables, a dialect no one here understands, but their eyes are kind. The painter draws them as they sleep their first night, curled together beneath a sky they do not yet trust. You gather herbs with the old woman. You mend nets with the fisherman. You write a song with the girl who once painted birds but now sings them into being. And always, always you write. You begin a new scroll, this one not for the past or the present, but for what hasn't happened yet. A scroll for those still coming. For the children who will one day ask why the mountain sleeps, why the sea sings, why people leave and why others stay. You fill the scroll with more than facts. You fill it with the scent of warm bread, the sound of laughter over fish stew, the way dusk feels when you stand barefoot on a cliff's edge. You write of grief not as an ending, but as a door, of joy not as a burst, but as a slow, golden unfolding. One day, as you sit beneath the tree, the girl with the song in her hands asks you a question. What comes after this? You look at her. Her eyes are bright, her voice steady, her hands already shaping new stories. You smile. You do. Weeks pass, then months. The boy, the young man, does not return. But news does. A traveler arrives with a coin carved in the shape of your village's crest, found in a market far inland, left behind on a table as payment for bread. The traveler had asked about the man who left it, heard only this: he was kind. He listened. He left before sunrise. You hold the coin in your palm. You imagine his voice, his hands, the tilt of his head when thinking. You smile. He is carrying the story just as he said he would. And so you keep writing. The scrolls now line shelves carved into stone. People borrow them, copy them, add to them. There is no single story anymore. There are hundreds, and yet they are all the same threads woven from fire, from salt, from wind. From beginning again, one night, as the sea hushes the shore and the moon sits low in a sky heavy with stars, you walk to the edge of the village and listen. Not for danger, not for silence, but for a sound that only comes when everything is still. A sound like breath, like the mountain far behind you now sleeping, like a city beneath the ash still whispering, like a boy who became a man and followed the sea carrying the first chapter of a world that would not end. And in that hush you say his name, not loud, not for anyone else to hear, just for you, just for the wind. Time becomes something else, not a line but a circle. Not something you measure, but something you live inside. You feel it in the wind that returns each spring, whispering through the trees with the same softness it did a year ago. You see it in the hands of the children, how they grow, how they carry pieces of the old world without ever having seen it. You see it most in the eyes of the girl born on the day the boy left. She is older now, running, laughing, shouting her name into the hills like a song. She climbs like she was born from stone, barefoot and wild, her hair always tangled, her fingers always smudged with ash or paint or honey. She calls you Old One, though your hair is not yet fully gray, and your knees only ache some mornings. But to her you are a storyteller, and in her world stories are older than stars. She asks for one each night. Not just any story, his story. The boy who came from fire, who sailed away into the sea. You tell it slowly, softly. You let her fill in the spaces. She adds dragons sometimes, or talking birds, or secret caves. You don't correct her. It's her version now. That's how stories live, not by staying the same, but by being loved enough to change. The girl draws him, often, on stones, on bark, on the walls of your home, always with wide eyes and open hands, sometimes with wings, sometimes with a ship behind him. It sails like clouds. You never ask her why. You know, she sees what he became, what he still is. One day she brings you a leaf, folded carefully around something small. Inside a feather, long, pale, curved like a question mark. She says she found it on the beach. You nod gently. You tell her it might have come from the birds. You don't tell her the other possibility, that maybe he left it, that maybe the sea brought it back, that maybe the world remembers him too. The village has grown, not wide, but deep. There are no walls, no guards, but everyone knows who belongs. The paths have become roads, the roads have become stories. The tree where you first taught the children now has carvings spiraling up its trunk, names, dates, animals, stars. A living record. One you can run your fingers over with your eyes closed and still find your place. You are still writing, but less now. Not because the story is over, because it has moved beyond you. Others write too. The old teacher now oversees the scribing of new scrolls. Young ones sit cross-legged on woven mats, copying, translating, inventing. The painter's drawings have become maps of sky, of memory, of imagined lands. Even the fishermen have begun keeping ledgers, noting not just what they catch, but what they dream of seeing beyond the tide. Your hands ache more these days. Your steps are slower, but your voice is steady, and people still come to sit by your fire, to listen, to remember. One evening, as the moon climbs high and the air smells of jasmine and pine, you see a lantern light on the hill. It flickers once, then again. A pattern you recognize. Someone returning. The girl is the first to reach the path. She runs barefoot, her laughter ringing like bells through the night. You follow slower, but your heart moves faster than it has in years. The man who arrives is not the boy who left. His hair is longer, his face leaner, his back straighter, but his eyes are the same. He kneels as the girl throws her arms around his neck, speaking so fast he can barely keep up. She calls him by the name from the stories. He smiles and doesn't correct her. When he stands, he turns to you. There are no words. There never needed to be. You walk together to the central fire. People gather. Food is passed. Music begins again, shy at first, then bold. He tells what he's seen. Villages rebuilt. Roads reopened. People carrying stories from coast to coast. He tells of a great fire in the north, not like Vesuvius, but born of man's greed, and how they rebuilt anyway, planting trees where ash once lay. He tells of a river with black stones and gold fish, and a temple with painted ceilings that never peeled even in the rain. He tells of a place where someone had carved your name into a wall, not for worship, for remembrance. And he tells them, all of them, that the story is known out there, that it is whispered, sung, written, and carried, not by him alone, by others. You sit quietly, hands wrapped around a warm bowl, listening. When he finishes, the village falls still, not in silence, in awe. The girl takes his hand. She leads him to the painted wall to show him what she's drawn. You remain by the fire. The sea hums. The wind stirs your hair, and you breathe, not as someone waiting, as someone fulfilled. That night beneath a sky bright with stars, he kneels beside you. He doesn't say he's staying. He doesn't need to. His pack remains at the foot of your bed. His bird hangs above the doorway. And in the morning the sun rises not on an ending, but on the next turning of the circle. Morning returns with gold in its hands. It spills across the hills, across the roofs of the village, across the stream, where children still chase minnows with bare feet and squeals of laughter. The air is cool but not cold, the kind of cool that invites movement, invites breath. The man who once was the boy rises early now like you used to. He stands where you once stood at the path that curves toward the sea, not watching for someone to return, but watching for what comes next. You rise more slowly, but not because you are weak. Because there is no longer a need to hurry. You step outside to find him waiting. He doesn't speak at first, just watches the trees. Then gently he gestures for you to follow. You do. The path he takes isn't one you've walked before, not fully. It winds uphill away from the village through a grove of tall pines and underbrush scented with wild rosemary and damp earth. As you climb, the air thins, becomes crisper, clearer. You can feel it in your lungs, in your bones. At the top there is a clearing. A place of stone and sky. Below the village is a patchwork of life, rooftops and pathways, fires just beginning to smoke, a thin line of the sea beyond, rising and falling with the sun. It takes your breath in the quietest way. The man hands you something, a stone, flat, smooth, with your name carved into it. Not large, not loud, just enough. You understand. He kneels, begins to dig, and with his hands, not tools, he shapes the place. A place for stories, not for bodies, not for bones, but for what you've carried. You kneel beside him. Together, you place the scrolls, not all of them, not the ones still being written, but the oldest ones. The ones about the mountain, and the boy and the fire that changed everything into a clay vessel, lined with cloth and sealed with wax. You lower it gently like a child into sleep. The man speaks, only one word. Stay, not a command, a blessing. And you do. For hours, sitting there, letting the wind pass through your fingers, letting the memories settle, letting the world become still. When you return to the village, the girl runs to greet you. She's taller again. How does that happen so fast? And carries a woven basket full of herbs. She offers you one mint crushed slightly in her palm. You take it. You breathe it in. Life has returned, not with noise, but with rhythm, with steps taken together. The evening brings a gathering, not a feast, not a ceremony, just people, sharing food, music, thoughts. One woman sings a song in a language none remember learning. It sounds like sea glass and candlelight. Someone laughs so hard they spill soup into the fire. The smoke rises sweet and sharp. Later the man speaks. He tells the story again of how he left, of what he saw. This time he speaks not as a boy who returned, but as a man who carries. He says the world is ready now. Not healed, but open. Ready to listen, and perhaps even ready to come together again. He speaks of building boats, real ones, trading. Letters exchanged between villages, shared scrolls, shared music, shared names. He says he will go again, but not alone, not to leave, to return more fully. The girl stands beside him when he says it. She doesn't ask permission either. She just nods, already dreaming of sails. You smile watching her, remembering another child who once stood at the shore silent and broken. And now look at him, whole. The next morning you wake early. You write. Your hands are slower now, your lines more deliberate. But still the ink flows. You begin one final scroll. Not for the village, not for the world. For the man, for the girl. For those who will one day ask, how did this begin? You tell them. You write of fire and flight, of silence and return, of ash and bread and stone and sea. You write until the sun is high. And then you stop, because the story does not end here. It continues in feet that walk, in hands that build, in voices that sing across the water. That evening the man visits you. He kneels beside your fire again. He does not ask you to come. He knows. You've already gone as far as you need. Instead, he gives you something. A new bird, carved from driftwood. Its wings open wide, its body hollowed out so it can hold something. You place your final scroll inside, close the bird's back, and hand it to him. He holds it like firelight. You place your hand on his shoulder. You say only one word, go, and he does. The next boat launches at dawn, and with it a song, carried by sails, by memory, by wind. And though you do not go with them, you are already there. In every story they tell, in every lantern they light, in every village that rises where only silence once stood. You remain, and that is enough. You don't remember the last time you walked quickly, not because your body won't let you, though it is slower now, more deliberate, but because you've learned the value of the slow step. The world reveals itself differently when you move like this. You notice the way the grass bends when a breeze moves through, the shape of footprints in the earth, the feel of light as it lands on your shoulders, not just warmth, but weight, gentle and golden. The village moves around you like a tide. Children chasing each other past your doorway, someone calling out a name from the garden, the sharp tap of a stone hammer, the smell of something baking flatbread with herbs, the scent rising like a memory. Everything continues, as it always does, as it always will. You spend most mornings now beneath the carved tree. It has grown since those early days, its trunk thicker roots reaching farther into the earth. The symbols etched into its bark have multiplied names, drawings, lines from poems. One child added a spiral that loops around the entire base, and now the younger ones trace it like a maze, giggling when they lose their way. Today you sit with the scrolls in your lap. The last ones. There is not much more to say. Not because the story has ended, but because it no longer needs you to carry it. You have watched it walk away on many legs, hearts of many kinds, voices louder, stronger, younger than yours. And you are glad. The girl comes to sit beside you. Her hair is longer now. She wears a sash across her chest, one she wove herself, blue and white like sea and sky. She places something in your hand, a small shell, smooth and pink at the edge, the center white and hollowed. From the northern shore, she says, where the tide pulls sharp. You nod. You turn it over in your fingers, then slip it into your pocket with the other stones, feathers, seeds. A pocket full of reminders that the world keeps giving. She reads to you sometimes now, not just your words, but her own. New scrolls, new stories. One about a girl who rides the wind, another about a fox who steals dreams from sleeping trees. They are strange and bright and alive. You love them. One evening she brings you a new scroll she's been working on. You recognize the first line before she even reads it. Hello and welcome to the story. She smiles shyly. You laugh, a soft, breathless sound that still surprises you. It's a good beginning, you say. That night she tells the story by the fire. Everyone gathers, not because they're told to, but because they've learned to come when there is light, when there is story. They sit in a circle, close but comfortable, and she stands at the center. Her voice is strong, clear. She doesn't rush. She knows the rhythm. When she finishes, the silence that follows is full. Then someone claps, then another. And then they all do. Not loudly, just enough. She bows once and comes to sit beside you. She doesn't ask how she did. She doesn't need to. You squeeze her hand. Tell it again, you whisper. And she will. You know she will. In the following days, preparations begin. The fleet is returning. Not one boat, 3, maybe more. From the boy, know the man who left long ago and keeps returning in pieces of the world he carries back. They say he brings stories now, written on leather and palm etched into bark and bone. They say he's taught others your alphabet, that they tell your name like a seed planted in faraway places. He will return before the first rain. That's what the girl says, and you believe her. She knows these things. She stands on the cliffs, sometimes hair in the wind, her eyes tracing shapes only she can see in the waves. She says the sea hums his name. One morning you wake before the sun. The air is cooler. Not the cold of endings, but of change. You dress slowly, wrap your shawl over your shoulders, and walk to the top of the hill, the place where once you watched him leave, and once more where you saw him return. The path is clear now. Others have worn it into the earth. When you reach the top, you sit on the stone with your name. It is smoother than before. Someone has traced it with oil, carved a new line below it. Who remembered? The mist curls below you. The sea stretches out like a scroll still waiting to be written. And in the distance a sail, white, bright against the gray, moving slowly, but moving. Toward you. Toward home. You close your eyes. Let the wind move through you. And for a moment you don't feel old. You don't feel tired. You feel carried. Like the scrolls. Like the bird. Like a story told again and again until it becomes part of the air itself. You sit there as the sails draw closer. You do not stand. You do not wave. You do not speak. But you are there, and that is enough. The sails return like wings, wide and white stitched with stories. Symbols old and new ripple in the wind, waves, bird stars, and the shape of a hand open in offering. The boats do not rush. They move slowly, reverently, as if carrying something sacred. And they are, not gold, not goods, but people, ideas, the continuation of what was once nearly lost. You sit on the hillside watching. From this distance you can't see faces, but you can feel them. Like the sun behind clouds, present, warming, waiting. The girl is the first to reach the shore. She runs before the boats even touch land, sandals forgotten in the grass. Behind her the others follow, children, elders, the stonecutter who always sings while he works, the teacher with her collection of ribboned scrolls. They gather with hands shading brows, breath caught in their chests. And when the boats finally ground on sand, the silence is profound. Then the voices come, soft greetings, gasps of recognition, tears that fall without shame. The man steps from the lead boat. His eyes find hers, the girl now nearly grown, and they do not speak. They simply smile. One long moment passed between them like a torch. Then he looks up. His gaze climbs the hill, finds you sitting still among the stones. He does not wave, but he nods once, and in that nod 1,000 memories. That night the village becomes light. Lanterns hang from every tree, every doorway, every fishing net strung like a tapestry across the square. Fires bloom in circles. Laughter dances between tents and homes. The air is thick with scent, roasted corn, river fish wrapped in leaves, honey tea bubbling gently in clay pots. Music rises, old songs and new ones, instruments you've never seen before, flutes made of glass, drums stretched with foreign leather, something that looks like a harp but sings like a voice. Children chase shadows, elders share stories. And the girl, your girl, she stands at the center, scroll in hand. She reads the beginning, your beginning, the first line you ever wrote after the fire, the one about waking into warmth, into stillness, into ash and memory. Her voice is steady, her hands don't tremble. She doesn't read as a child, she reads as an heir, and when she finishes, she lifts her head and adds a line of her own, one you've never heard before, one that sounds like you but new, better. The firelight reflects in the man's eyes as he listens. He has not sat down since he arrived. He paces slowly through the crowd, touching shoulders, clasping hands. He places gifts in open palms, seeds, folded maps, pieces of parchment written in scripts you cannot yet read. He finds you by the tree hours later. No words between you, only presence. He sits at your side. He takes the carved bird from his belt. It is old now, worn. The wings have chipped, but it still holds the scroll you gave him. He opens it, unfurls it. The ink has faded, but the words are still there. He reads it aloud, just a few lines. You listen. You do not correct his pronunciation, though you notice the changes. His voice carries the weight of distance, of travel, of translation. He has told this story many times, but here with you it becomes new again. He places the scroll in your lap. I've carried it, he says. Now I give it back. You place your hand on his. Now carry another. He smiles, and you both understand. The next morning you wake before the sun. You walk slowly through the village. The air is heavy with dew. The people are still sleeping, scattered like stars beneath cloth and thatch. You step over a fishing line. Past the garden, past the old circle of stones where stories are offered to the sea. You find your way to the tree. Your tree. You sit beneath it one final time, scroll in hand, ink prepared. And you write, "This is the end of my part of the story." But not the end of the story. It moves now in younger hands, in stronger voices, in eyes that have never seen the mountain but still know what it meant to rise from ash. If you are reading this, you are the story now. Tell it well. You fold the scroll, wrap it in cloth, and place it in the hollow you carved years ago, when your fingers were quicker, when your eyes needed less light. The birds call above. The wind shifts. You lean back, resting your head against the tree's trunk. You do not close your eyes. You keep them open, so you can see it all one more time. The sails, the hills, the girl, the boy, the fire, the quiet, the world, the memory of Pompeii not as ruins but as seed. And with your last breath, not because you must but because you choose to, you whisper, "Still here."